let's try this again. This is fantastic. Okay. So let me go and double check. Have you ever done a Google Hangout before, Mav?
Yeah, but not as a stream.
Yeah. So this is like my backup when I continuously run into problems, which is obviously what is happening right now. So let's see if it is working. Okay. How do I, oh, this is such a nightmare. All right, so we've got 9 viewers, so we're just gonna go.
All right.
All right,
cool.
So let's try this again. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Convos, where I continuously have tech problems and you're all very patient with me. But on a more serious note, this is where I've been trying to talk to content creators in the space to get a feel for how and why they got into crypto, talk a bit about ourselves because we're always talking about projects. So today I have Mav on from ReadySetCrypto. Welcome, Mav.
Hi.
Give me some background information about how you got into this.
All right, cool. So yeah, last time, I guess I'll just summate it up, or I don't know. The short version is basically I was working for the banks, and at the same time I was watching crypto, like, you know, kind of blow up. And so I kind of saw myself at like the fork in the road. I'm like, I got to make a decision here. And so obviously I went with crypto, and I really haven't looked back since. But yeah, it's been super fun for me to be a part of this. It's something that I never thought I would be doing. I certainly don't come from like an entertainment background. My degree was in computer science. I've, you know, always been in sort of like fintech and just talking about technology and that sort of stuff. But I never saw myself like having a YouTube channel or doing anything like that. But where I saw the need for me to build what I have or do what I've done is right around the time that like I was really getting back into crypto was, you know, summer of 2017. And at that time, I don't know if anyone can remember, but there was like BitConnect and all these other ICO scams, and it was bad. It was bad news bears. So I said, you know, I want to make the channel that I would want to watch, you know, that like is very clear with the morals, you know, isn't going to be, you know, making videos for profit, and instead like puts the viewers first, and like is very research based. And I don't know, the other problem I saw at the time was like everybody was like, you know, it was just a dude with a webcam in their living room, and it's just like crypto is too important for this. Like this space is just too important to have, you know, guys talking 30 minutes in their living room about a coin or a project or whatever. It needs to be like, you know, we need some actual production quality in this. So CryptoCandor or I definitely can relate on that. It's
Yes.
yeah, it's a process, but it's worth it, I feel, because it's a more professional space. It's a more professional dialogue, if you will. So yeah, I've kind of gone on for a little bit there, but that's sort of the background as to why I got into this, why I continue to do what I do, because, you know, I love the space. I love the idea that, you know, just the idea of decentralization, especially under the context of, you know, what we're seeing right now. You know, I was just writing about it in my newsletter today about how, like, you know, we've got like the government shutdown, and we had the Fed, you know, talking about interest rate hikes and like all these things that are like, there's a lot to be desired with our current system. I feel like, you know, there's a lot that's good, but there's also a lot that can be iterated on and, you know, built upon and improved. And I think in this sort of fog that we're in right now with the global economy, I think decentralization and blockchain can really provide a map out of that. So it's kind of interesting. I think we're in a really interesting time right now where we're going to see what crypto can provide, what it can bring to the table. I mean, the legacy system has basically everything to lose, and crypto has everything to gain. And what I found is that the more that people lose faith in Wall Street, the more that, you know, crypto becomes a more viable alternative. So it's yeah, we're in a really interesting place. But anyways, I've talked too long.
No, I mean, those are all really valid points, and I think that's definitely something that we have in common. Is we both, you know, I didn't come from a background in tech, a background in production, anything like that. I started the channel because I thought it would be fun, and exactly the same reason. Like, I was looking to create content that I wanted when I got into the space, and also it was a way for me to learn while also helping others learn. So kind of like a, you know, do as I say, basically. And the production value to me, which I love the way you put together your videos, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But
I like your videos too.
well, thanks. For me, it's like I have to want to watch my stuff, right? Because if I don't want to watch my stuff, I assume other people don't want to watch my stuff. So for me, having it look nice, be presentable, be enjoyable to watch, and keep your interest is very important. And I agree with you that there's a lot of people sitting in their basement or sitting in front of a poorly lit room, and it's hard to see what they're talking about or what they're doing. And it definitely really makes me disinterested in the content. So that was one of my major goals, was to make it look good. And I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with making quality content, because your stuff is great.
I mean, I think what surprises people, and you probably have the same sort of problem, but the actual production time, like start to finish for a video for mine, if let's say it's 10 hours, half of that is going to be conception, like, you know, writing and all that sort of stuff, doing the research.
Yep.
The actual like video production side, to me, like maybe it's like the mark of an artist or something like that, but like I'm like, I need to make these videos better, but at the same time, like I need to get them out and like, you know, present them to people. So that to me is where I need to improve and like just make better. And so that's a focus for me in 2019. It's just like continuing to improve the production quality. But yeah, absolutely. To your point, like it needs to be something that I would want to watch, and it needs to be something that I feel, you know, I just always want to respect my viewers' time. I always want to, you know, make it almost a conversation, because I don't want to make it about me. That's part of the reason why I usually am not on camera, is because, you know, typically the focus should be on the topic, and, you know, the recipient is the viewer. And so I want to make sure that, you know, like they're being respected, their time is being respected, that I'm not, you know, just kind of rambling on, or, you know, reviewing a project by like reading off their website or something like that. Like I, you know, actually take the time to go through the white paper or something like that, and, you know, say, hey, this is interesting because of these reasons. So yeah, it's definitely something that I feel like, you know, it's something I hope that more that I can inspire more creators to do something like that, because I think that's necessary. How do you think that crypto YouTube should change in 2019?
That's a really good question. I've seen, I mean, my channel's like maybe a year and a couple months old now. And I think since I've started, like you said, seen a massive evolution, right? There was like BitConnect, YouTube channels, and all of this very shilly, not so great stuff. And there's been a serious decrease in that, which I'm really grateful for. And I do think that the bear market has also weeded out a pretty decent amount of content creators, or at least slowed down production value, or production content as much as however many videos are coming out a week. And yeah, somebody just mentioned down below, less clickbait. For sure, there's definitely less clickbait. I think I've been seeing an evolution toward higher quality of content that you're putting out. So more stuff like yours and mine, or more research-based stuff, versus the latter, which I think is very good, because in order for us to be taken seriously as creators, I feel as a long-term, we have to continue to evolve and get better. And your goal for making your production value better over the next year is, I'm right there with you. I've been trying to change the way I edit, add different things in, change just little things that'll make me feel better. But again, you know, time constraints, obviously, I think everybody knows at this point that I work a regular day job. So it's hard to find time to edit, make it perfect, but I'm right there with you. Like, I'll be like, I don't want to put this out because this isn't exactly the way I want it, but like, okay, I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up at 6:30. So it's kind of a balancing act.
For sure. Yeah. Someone asked me this question at some panel I was on at one of these conferences, and it was, you know, what is the most difficult part about being a YouTuber, or really a content creator in the crypto space? And for me, my answer is still the same. It's that, you know, when we create this content, not only are we trying to be sort of like a beacon, or you know, just provide knowledge or insight or information to the internal crypto community, you know, look inward, but we are also representative to the outside, for, you know, what is crypto. If someone types in YouTube, you know, what is cryptocurrency, you know, there might be you know, a shilly type of video that comes up, or there could be one of ours. And so for me, that is such a, like, you know, a responsibility, is sort of a pedestal that like I put myself on, because we have to be representative of the larger space. We have to sort of as much as we want to talk inward, ultimately we're representative outward of what crypto is. You know, who are these people? What are they doing? Like, you know, we're going to find so many people have these questions, especially if we start to see what I suppose we all want is adoption and, you know, mainstream usage. You know, there's going to be a lot of people coming to the table saying, okay, what is this? How do I get involved? What do I need to know? All these things. And so really, I think we're just getting started as it relates to this sort of stuff. I mean, if you believe it in as much as I do, like, this is very much the early years, and it's going to be quite a ride ahead of us. So yeah, I think the push towards professionalism, the push towards sort of a mature content. Well, that came out wrong, I suppose, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. Like more polished.
Yeah. But that's what we need. I think as a whole, throughout the entire industry, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc., it needs to move in this new direction towards, you know, just, you know, trying to grow up, if you will. So yeah, I think we're sort of leading the charge, which is great. But
yeah, I certainly hope so. But like, you know, what you said, and if someone, you know, Google searches what is crypto, I agree with you. I want the videos that people find immediately to be videos from reputable people who are respectful of this space and respect the space, and because of that, make content that is beneficial for the average person to find, which is kind of always what my stuff has been geared towards, which is just entry-level information. And yeah, some of it people, I get like flack because like, oh, you know, you do this basic research. I'm like, yeah, but not everybody wants to do that basic research. And so, you know, there's like a niche for everything. So everybody's got to find their spot. But I do hope that everybody keeps growing and getting better, because I think it's definitely going to be good for the space. Yeah.
This might be maybe too poetic or something like that, but I think it's very I don't know, representative or sort of the milestone to me. You know, we are 10 years out from, you know, the first, you know, the Genesis block. The first transaction of Bitcoin was a couple days ago. You know, the 10-year anniversary, that is. And like, that was another question I heard at a conference, was like, you know, what if Satoshi Nakamoto came back from, you know, his vacation or whatever, you know, Hal Finney came back from the dead or something like that, you know, like what would happen? And my answer to that is, who cares, basically, or rather, you know, blockchain, this space is, you know, at this point, we are Satoshi Nakamoto. Like, we are we've been imbued with the direction that the space is going. You know, decentralization is about, you know, like making, you know, giving power back to the people. And I think at this point, that's what this space represents. It has become, you know, decentralized. I mean, there's always improvements that can be made, but at this point, the direction is up to us. It's up to us to decide where we want to take this thing. And so, yeah, I think that's, over these next 10 years, hopefully we see this new push, and you know, a push towards something. I don't know. It's going to be very different than the first 10 years. But
yeah,
I very exciting.
We were just talking about this before we went live, you know, 2 or 3 times over, because my OBS is just a wonderful program. I wish they would make a better version. But, you know, we were talking about like STOs, how they're a hot topic and how everybody wants to know about them. And it's so crazy to think, for me to think that, you know, when I had gotten into the space and I finally got my wits about me, if you had told me like, oh, security token offerings and regulation in the space, and that's going to be like the hot topic of 2019, I would have been like, no way. People are way more interested in ICOs and 10xing and moonshots and whatever. And it's just in our movement of people being interested in safe, regulated, reliable ways to get into the space. I think that in itself speaks volumes for kind of where we're headed, or at least the maturity of the space and what people are actually prioritizing versus what they were in the past.
For sure. Yeah. I think, I mean, security tokens is, it's no secret at this point that that's kind of what I'm most excited about, at least for what's going on in 2019, because, you know, there's a lot going on in the crypto space, but I see STOs as sort of its own industry. It's almost sort of like the stepchild of crypto and traditional finance. It's sort of this intersection of the two. And I think what I've found just by watching other YouTubers content and just looking around on the different crypto communities out there, Reddit, for example, is there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misunderstanding as to what it is or what these things are going to do and why there's an opportunity. And we don't have to go like totally in depth on this stuff, but I every chance I get, I just want to like make sure that there's at least one more person that understands that it's not, for example, going to be like the playground of the rich. It's not just for accredited investors. In fact, the process, the tokenizing private equity, is really going to open up this sort of crowdfunding for private equity. It's really going to change things and really open up things that we just aren't seeing right now, because as it stands right now with private equity, there's just a problem of matching buyers and sellers. That's the nature of the system right now, because it's really analog. It's in order to do that buyer seller transaction, you need a fund manager to ensure compliance. But what if the compliance was tokenized? What if all that compliance was baked into a token, and we could ensure compliance just based on smart contracts and things like that? So there's a lot to like about that, because I don't know if but like most of the world's wealth is locked up in equity. When we talk about Bitcoin, when we talk about liquid fiat, what Bitcoin is basically trying to be, that's only about 30% of the world's wealth. The other 70% is equity. There's public equity, of course, and there's private equity. But like I've said, private equity is very analog. It's very paper based. Fund manager represents a middleman, and as you probably know, in crypto, we're all about eliminating the middleman. And so that's the opportunity. That's why it's so big. That's why it's so exciting. So yeah, basically in a single sentence or so, if the less something trades, the more likely it is to be disrupted, or rather tokenized. So that's kind of the opportunity we see before us, be that private equity, be that real estate, art, etc.
Yeah.
It's a really exciting thing to see that we can leverage blockchain technology to improve this process, which really hasn't changed much over the past 100 years or so since securities law was put into place. So yeah, that's why I'm excited about it. That's really been my big initiative lately, is to try and understand that more and get in front of that. So yeah.
What I thought was the coolest, because I actually did a video on STOs a couple weeks ago, because I didn't really know much about it, and I just figured it was something people were interested in, and I wanted to know too. So what I like what you mentioned too is that you can bake in the regulations within the token within smart contracts. So periods that are frozen, periods that token can't be moved or sold or whatever, or time, dates, whatever. That's so cool. A, because it keeps people honest, but B, because it again removes the middleman, removes the trust. Boom, problem solved. So that in itself was something that I was really impressed by, and also one of those like aha moments where I should have guessed that was going to be a use case, but I didn't even think of it. So it was a pretty cool thing to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be one of those things that it's going to be a slow trickle at first. Yeah. And I'm still trying to decide like whether STOs right now are, 2014 or 2016 or et cetera, like where they are in terms of the development process. Yeah. But we're going to see a slow trickle of maybe there's going to be some overlap of the ICO space where, there will be, bad STOs, for example. And, the first couple that come out could be those bad ones. But I think over time, as more companies realize just how incredible of a vehicle this is for capital formation, for you to go directly to investors and not have the issues of compliance that we saw with ICOs, because ultimately that's what we saw with ICOs. That's why they were so compelling to people, even if they were a flawed model, for you to go directly to investors, for you to say, hey, I have a dream. I have a dream to build something. Help me do it. To not have to go to Wall Street and have them, through, if you're to do like an S1 filing, that's millions of dollars in underwriting fees. That, they're going to take 7% of your revenue to do that filing. That's crazy. And then to try and go through like a VC, you're also going to have a lot of overhead. So that's why ICOs were so compelling, because you could go directly to investors who are traditionally more risk tolerant and say like, hey, I want to do this thing, help me do it. And, to do that instantly. So that's the other really big opportunity, probably the biggest that I see with STOs, and really just the idea of tokenization is that you're going to open up this private equity capital formation to the world. You'll have the ability to, let's say you have a real estate investment trust in the US. You'll have the ability to access a global pool of liquidity to get investors to invest in your REIT, and to do that basically instantaneously and cheap. That to me is the biggest thing. Global liquidity for private equity just does not happen right now at all. And that's the big thing. So that's what gets me excited. You've gotten me down this road now. I won't shut up.
No, I'm interested. I'm interested, and this actually kind of goes into my next question. So I'm always so impressed when I watch your content that you're obviously, I know you do your research, you're well read, you make sure that you know your stuff before you make content. But you talk a lot about the financial systems. You have a very good knowledge of the inner workings of how things function. Is this all self-taught information? Do you have a background in this? I mean, does somebody in your family work in the traditional systems? Like, how did you come about having all of this knowledge?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. So the other half of ReadySetCrypto is Doc. So where I do a lot of fundamental analysis, where I read through the white papers and I have fun talking about crypto and that sort of thing. Doc is a trader. Doc doesn't care, what your white paper says. Doc doesn't care, what the mission is or whatever. Doc only cares about what you can trade and how you can make money off of it. He's going to read charts all day, whereas I read white papers all day. So together, that's a really good blend. But I guess the secret is out of the bag that Doc is my dad, and he's been doing this for basically 2 decades now. So he's been through many bubbles and bursts, bear markets and bulls, and he's traditionally done options investing, which is a type of investing that is a little bit plays on risk a little bit, but it's sort of like an advanced stock trading basically. But yeah, he's in the markets every day. He's I'm at his terminal right now, and there's like 10 different charts set up right now, and it's great. He loves doing that sort of stuff, but at the same time, once I introduced him to crypto, we were on a trip in the UK together, and we're on the train, and I've got like Poloniex pulled up, and I'm just in there watching stuff, and I'm over here on Binance, and I'm watching my Neo blow up, and that was August 1st, 2017, so that was really fun to watch everything just go crazy. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing? Tell me more about this." And so that's kind of how I got him involved and sort of brought him on board. But yeah, he's definitely we've built this business together, and it's been quite a ride, but it's been a lot of fun too. So I definitely appreciate his tutelage, but I've also had some fun being his teacher and what's going on with crypto. So yeah, he's right now he's trying to get beta access to Digitex, which is this upcoming futures exchange. And hopefully, which I'm hoping sort of breaks up the BitMEX monopoly mafia or whatever. Just
that's cool, though, that your dad does it with you. I actually don't know if I knew that. I knew you had someone that helped you, a partner, but that's very, very cool that your father. I'm actually super envious that you have somebody else to help you, because it's definitely there's some days and I'm like, oh, I just wish I could push my editing off to somebody else, or have somebody respond to my comments for me or something, because I just not in the mood, but I always have to do it. So I've had this conversation, I feel like, a lot lately, and I did a news video where I talked about this, and people, it seemed like a pretty, not controversial, but it's an issue that people want to talk about. And so everybody's been recently discussing, there's in the actual financial system, there's discussion of recession, possible issues with the financial market and bubble, whatever. And, there's seems to be a 50-50 split. 50% of the people think that if we have a recession, it's going to be good for crypto. If we have a recession, it's going to be bad. My thought process is that if there's a huge recession in the traditional financial markets, this is not going to help crypto, that people are going to try to decrease risk, not increase risk. So that's where I stand on that. What's your opinion on that?
I think you're absolutely right in the context of a very aggressive, time of crash, for example. So, we went through another 2008 style crash. People certainly move away from higher risk speculative assets during times like that, not towards them. You know, and of course, people have said that, you know, well, Bitcoin has never weathered a recession before, and you know, big blockchain has never been around for, you know, those sorts of events, and rather that they, you know, Bitcoin's white paper was basically in response to the lead up and the events that led to the 2008 financial crisis. So I think under the context of this possible upcoming recession, I think it was actually really interesting. I was just reading this book this past weekend called The Everything Bubble, which, you know, talks a lot about you know, just sort of the Fed's role in all of this, and how there's, you know, debt has almost become the new form of money in our system. It's really interesting. But yeah, I think, I don't know if we're going to see another 2008 style crash or anything like that. What I think is more likely is that we'll see some years, almost like a bear market of what we've seen in crypto, just kind of this slow return to the norm. But that being said, we've seen some insane movement in you know, the equities markets lately. It's just I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think after there's the initial shock of, oh, we're in a bear market with the equities markets, I think that is when crypto might seem like a viable alternative, something that you know, people might say, hey, well, this asset class, look what it did in 2017. You know, is this more viable of a, you know, capital lockup vehicle than, say, gold or something like that? And that I think is a little bit more of an interesting conversation that might be had over the next couple of years. Honestly, I don't know. There's so many different ways that this can go that there's, again, I think there's a lot of uncertainty as it relates to what's going to happen. Where are we going? What's going on? And I'm just kind of trying to play this one out as much as I can, staying a little bit liquid in cash, but at the same time, you know, trying to hedge my bets as it relates to, you know, what's going on. And hopefully, I like I said earlier, you know, with the traditional markets, you know, they have everything to lose, and crypto really does have a lot to gain, especially during times like these where people lose faith in the systems and say, hey, well, this system over here is, you know, kind of a direct response to that, and now it's really matured. It's, you know, we're seeing big things come to the table over the next couple of years regarding scaling, regarding use cases, regarding just, you know, projects and investment, and like all these really cool things. So yeah, I think the long-term perspective is actually very beneficial or positive for crypto, but that remains to be seen. I mean, yeah, it's anyone's guess at this point, and I'm certainly the last person who is going to be wanting to make like a price prediction or anything like that. You know, my feelings is just that like this year is going to be sort of akin to maybe like a 2016, where it's just, we're not bleeding out anymore, but at the same time, you know, we're just kind of like getting ready, and we're watching what's going on with the larger markets, because unfortunately we're a small fish right now. But you know, we've got big ambitions, and you know, we want to see, you know, big things happen to the world, and you know, I think that will definitely be one of our best assets moving forward. So how do you feel about it?
You make a good point about it's kind of dependent on like the severity of the recession, right? So that's totally valid. I definitely didn't think about that. I guess I'm more of like a glass half empty kind of person. I just assume if it's going down, it's going down big.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, and I mean, the thing that I like right now about kind of the uncertainty, there's so many variables, right? Like you said, who's to say? We have no idea what's going to happen in the financial markets. The traditional ones, we have no idea what's happening really in crypto. So like there's so many variables that it's almost impossible to really figure out, like even with a good guess, what's going to happen.
Sure.
But I was just talking to somebody recently, because my thought was, with this market now, it seems there's less like people running around screaming moon, Lambo, whatever. And I feel like maybe that puts less pressure on the teams to be developing. And I almost feel like the bear market is going to be beneficial for teams to just kind of put their heads down, work, develop, progress their projects, and do whatever in the space, instead of being so focused on marketing or outreach or price prediction or overall value of the project. Because I do think that this bear market has kind of weeded out a lot of the people that were really only here for like a quick buck, and now it's more so people that are actually interested in the space or the tech.
Yeah, yeah. I think this next year is going to be critical for my investing goal as it relates to 2019 is longevity and sort of survivability, because what we're seeing is even if a project was able to survive 2018, they are still running on a sort of short runway in terms of, yes, they might have raised a couple million or tens of millions of dollars, but that's only going to last them so long. And I
Yeah.
think that's 2019 is where we're going to start to see the ends of some of those runways, where it's make or break time for a lot of these projects. So I agree with you that I think the market just kind of just chilling out, or getting out of this phase where just doomsday every day, that is beneficial for helping these developers and the projects, and just really the larger community, kind of just get their stuff together. It helps with our perception outside for bringing investment in. If a project wants to attract private investment, that sort of thing, it really helps with that. But yeah, I think that's also where we'll see the benefit of having something like an STO, where it's a private equity and investment vehicle. And I personally, I'm excited to see that transition, because I I think this is a kind of a shock to some people, but utility tokens, ICOs, do not represent a stake in the company.
Yeah. I think that's something that people didn't realize.
Yeah, and maybe that was part of the 2018 just kind of realization of like, oh, I just invested in some magic internet money.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, I think there's going to be a shift towards more mature investments, more mature projects, like you said. And yeah, I think it's like I said, I think this is a building year. Last year was sort of a like hangover, just like just kind of back to basics. Yes, we did make some. It was like two steps forward, like one and I don't know,
3/4 step back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we did make progress. I think that's lost on some people too, is that like even though 2018 was not fun to get through, there was progress made. That wasn't just getting rid of bad projects. Good projects made progress. So that's something I'm very happy to see, that even after all that we've gone through, there are still good projects in the space that are still making advancements, that we're still seeing really good work being done, that people are still excited about this space.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, that's tremendous. Even after 12 months of disappointment, that we're able to still have a rallying cry around this is important. This is this is here to stay. Like, this is we need to see this come to fruition. So yeah, I'm super stoked to see what we can see out of this year. Even if it's not like Moon Lambo, back to this golden bull run or whatever. I in fact don't want that.
I don't want that either.
Maybe that's not what everyone wants to hear, but I think it's more beneficial for us to see something stable or even just slow growth. I mean, this year could be the year of like stable coins, for example, that like having them to be fully realized and fully fleshed out and really transparent and open. That's awesome. Like that, those are the bridges for traditional investment or institution to get in, and so to see those working is really awesome. And I've had some fun recently. DAI, the token DAI. I've been playing around on Compound. It's this like sort of lending platform where you can lend out your DAI. So instead of just sitting around and trying to be in like safe harbor for stablecoin, you can sit there and make. I've made as much as 18% return on my DAI. It's come down. It's now like 3 or 4% the last time I looked, but yeah, that's 3 or 4% that you're not you're getting back. You're my goal with an investment is always to at least beat inflation. So you're doing okay at that point. But what's even cool is you can utilize like collateralized debt portals to like CBPs, I think they're called, and like lend against that, or sorry, borrow against that, and then lend out on DAI, and then just like kind of repeat the process. It's crazy. Like there's
That's cool.
so
I have
much.
to look into it. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah. So it's called Compound, and then I forget what the CVP that I was using is called, but basically, what's really interesting about this is when you think about it like that. When you think about, okay, so we've got a stable asset that can be borrowed and lended out in a trustless, open way that is collateralized, especially once we see multi-collateralized DAI later this year. It's collateralized against like things like Ethereum, and it's not like tethered and locked up in some sneaky bank account. Like it's out there, it's collateralized. Like you can trust it. Yeah, exactly. You can trust that it's going to be operational, and it's DAI is doing extremely well for what it stands for. When you have those sorts of pieces like that, that's retail banking right there. That like we now have open, like online retail banking that is basically an online protocol, and suddenly you're able to say or replace retail banking as we know it. Like that to me is really exciting, and we have it all today basically. So I don't think the retail banking sector really understands what is happening right now.
I highly doubt that they have any idea. I think a lot of people in the crypto space that are here and comfortable with the space don't even necessarily know that. And the thing is like, you mentioned about progress and the space growing. The thing is too is like, okay, so perfect example. When I was a kid, I used like AOL Kids and like this horrible dial-up and like Internet Explorer to get on the internet, right? So fast forward 10 years, and now we have all this tech. Now, crypto or the space of blockchain tech's only 10 years old. So people are really short-sighted in understanding that this has only been around a drop in a bucket comparatively to other things. So I think that's something that we also really need to remember to like keep in perspective, is that there's a ton of time yet. I mean, there's so many projects that are still just in developing and haven't put out too much, or are just trying to hit their roadmap progress or whatever. So I think we just have to be patient. And like you said, this year may be the year that people start hitting the end of the runway because they raised money in ETH and they might be running out of it. And so that should be interesting. Somebody actually mentioned down below, they're like, well, maybe projects will start to merge. Who knows? That would be interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. I got some questions here for you. Where'd they go?
All right, bring them on.
People want to know like how you feel still about Walton and Origin Trail,
cool.
And that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I actually got a really sweet care package from Origin Trail. So
me too. Yeah. I love my sweatshirt.
My sweatshirt's super nice.
No, those guys are great. And I haven't really been following them as much as I should probably. But they're still doing stuff. I know they just announced some big partnership or something like that. Maybe like a month ago or something like that. Yeah, I probably can't speak to them as well as I used to be able to. But
that happens to me a lot. The thing is too, like people forget. Okay, so with all due respect, like we love making content, we love what we do, right? But people also need to realize like there's only 24 hours in a day. So like I work, I make content, I'm researching my projects, I'm in Discord responding to people. Like yes, I still hold all of the projects that I've publicized that I still hold, but I don't follow up like I'm not in the know for 25 projects in my portfolio all the time. It's just not really possible. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think there's sort of this other question I saw earlier, just like regarding like what do I still hold or anything like that. And yeah, I really haven't changed my investment portfolio too much over the past 6 or so months. It's been pretty much just like trying to get through the bear market as feasible as possible. And like I said, what I'm trying to strive for in the projects that I invest in is survivability and longevity.
Sure.
And just trying to see that like, yes, they are making active development. Yes, they're like engaging with the community. That they're just active in some capacity. Like that's really the most important thing for me, because unfortunately we won't probably have insight into their financials or anything like that. So we have to do the best we can to just kind of perceive that based on how much they're doing in terms of outreach and development and et cetera. Are they meeting their deadlines? Are they, you know, are they making big announcements, you know, partnerships, etc.? Like those are the things that hasn't changed, you know, over the past year that I've been like in depth looking at projects every day. Like that's still what I'm looking for. So yeah.
I was actually just having this conversation with my boyfriend on last night, actually. We were talking about, because I was explaining to him that I had a live stream with you or whatever, and he's like, "Oh man, like I'm so disappointed, blah blah blah. The market sucks." I'm like, yeah, but you have to like. He's like, he doesn't follow it as much as I do. So he's like, "How's like Cardano doing?" Because that's one of the projects he likes, and so I'm trying to explain to him. I'm like, just because, you know, the price is not necessarily a direct indication of what the project is doing. The entire space took a hit, but everybody is still developing and doing the things that they said they were going to do. At least most of the projects that are of, you know, hold more merit, they are continuing to do that. And so it's easy to lose steam and feel discouraged maybe about the fact that the prices have gone down. But like you said, we have to remember that even if we aren't following all these projects all the time, for the most part, from what I'm seeing is like the major ones are still doing what they were promising that they were going to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to know what gave you the, so for those people that haven't seen any of his content, I suggest you go watch his videos. He's got like a very soothing voice. It's got very nice, like naturey scenes that he goes through. How did you come up with that idea? Because obviously every other YouTuber does what I do. And I'm curious, did you just look at everybody else's content and you're like, I don't want to do that? Or did you go into it already with that idea?
So what I do, just as like a basis of like trying to understand, you know, what people are talking about, at least on YouTube, is I've subscribed to every channel that I can find, just because like I'm curious to see like how other people are looking at content, or you know, looking at topics rather. But my actual the way I present stuff, yeah, it was pretty much homegrown in terms of like I used to just kind of talk over content or talk over like, you know, coin market cap or something like that, or like, you know, try to do like instructional type guides. So I think there was a video like I don't know, last September or September 2017 rather, that I did like a NavPi setup guide, and it was like 15 minutes long, and it was good. Like it was the only one I could find, or only one out there at the time of how to do that. But yeah, I sort of started to transition into, you know, covering a little bit more, because what I wanted to do, or what I didn't want to do rather, is cover news or do things like that. What I found is that it just didn't fit my style. It didn't fit the way that I wanted to present content. And plus, there was so many other people out there like talking about what's going on every day and that sort of thing. I still wanted the ability to, you know, talk about something if something big comes out, or something, there's a big topic that everybody's talking about right now. For example, I covered the Bitcoin ETF and backed in a couple of videos, like those sorts of topics that like everybody's addressing. So I want to put my own take on it. But more rather, or you know, what I found is sort of my strength is you know, really doing the in-depth research and just like writing stuff out and just trying to cover it in a way that no one else is covering something. And so sort of by extension, that's where I found like, oh, okay, stock footage can really help with that. The stock footage first was used, you know, directly to relate to what I was talking about. I think the first video I used for that style was talking about like supply chain type stuff. So like I would talk about you know, like Walton Chain and how they're doing, you know, logistics tracking from like the warehouse to the shipping to, you know, the retail. And like I had videos for all of that, you know, like trying to represent that sort of stuff. And then eventually I just kind of like, oh, okay, so I'm like creating longer videos, or, you know, videos that I can't directly correlate to the stock footage. So maybe I'll just, as long as I've got something happening all the time, you know, because people unfortunately have short attention spans, and I like want to make sure that there's something happening on screen at all times. And even if like it's not me, you know, being boisterous and like, you know, going off the walls, hyper and whatnot, at least they have something to look at. So typically, if I have enough time to produce a video, I will like try to do almost like this one slide format where like nothing, like everything that I put on the screen in terms of like text, like doesn't go away by the end of the video. And that helps with like kind of building out the story that I'm trying to like narrate, if you will. But sometimes I'll also like transition between things that I need to talk about. I don't know. I just kind of try to mix it up, whatnot. But yeah, what I'm trying to do in 2019 is eventually move to more like 2D animation and like actually go back to the basics of where I started, where, you know, like when I talk about something that it's, you know, has a visual representation on screen, and, you know, it's appealing and engaging that way. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Everything else, like the intro and like the song and like all that sort of stuff, yeah, it just kind of fell together. Like I I swear I'm just like kind of making this stuff as I go. So
I know that's really the key. Like people ask me that too, just about like how I decided to start making content the way I did, and it's exactly the same thing. It just kind of fell into place.
yeah.
What I like about your videos the most, I think, is normally I listen to a lot of podcasts or like books on audio. So for me, being able to multitask while listening is important. So I'm almost grateful that, and if I do watch, it is very soothing. But if I don't necessarily have to watch, and I can still grasp what you're saying, and, you know, not have to technically be looking at the screen to miss something. And I actually kind of ran into the same problem myself when I started making videos. Was I was trying to put something on the screen that was directly applying to what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And that can really, was actually one of the biggest barriers for me. It took me the longest amount of time during editing was to find stuff that applied. So I kind of gave up a little bit on that too. But I am as well trying to work on sort of an alternative to like meet in the middle.
Cool.
But no, that's pretty cool. I was always curious kind of how that came about. I like that you're really the only one that does that.
Yeah, I swear it was just kind of like, I mean, I did draw some inspiration from like Windover Productions and like Cold Fusion TV, and like those guys like are just like me, where they just sort of narrate over stuff, and they both use like stock footage and sort of stuff. So I just kind of took that and sort of tweaked it to make it my own, if you will. But yeah, as it relates to cryptocurrency, I'm still finding like trying to think of like the right way to present that sort of content, because it is very abstract, if you will. Like Windover talks about like he does like a lot of videos on like airplanes, and like Cold Fusion does stuff on like AI and that sort of stuff. But, you know, like crypto is like, because it's ethereal and like you can't touch it or like, you know, have a direct visual representation unless it's like, you know, like, oh, this is a wallet.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
It's tough to talk about. Like it so
can be.
Yeah, it's all about making the content engaging. And like I said at the beginning of the conversation, like I always try to respect my viewers' time and say, hey, I really appreciate you like taking the time out of your day to watch my video. You know, like I want to respect that by like doing the best I can to like give you something interesting to listen to or like think about. And so like that's how I will always try to present my content, as being sort of cerebral, or did I pronounce that right? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you got it. You said it better than I would have been able to.
But, you know, like very like, you know, like try to keep everything up here. And
absolutely.
You know, I don't know. So yeah.
But I like it. You do a good job.
Cool.
So
thank you.
What are there any events or any things going on in 2019 that you're excited about or keeping an eye on, whether it's like a conference or something that's getting developed by a project?
Sure. So next week, yeah, actually, pretty much a week from today, I'm going to be getting ready to go to London.
Oh, wow.
For Security Tokens Realized. And it's a 2-day event in Covent Garden. And it's going to be, I mean, so far as I know, that's the first security tokens type conference. So I'm kind of excited. I don't really know anyone there. It seems like it's going to be a bunch of bankers and lawyers. So it might be kind of the most boring thing I've ever gone to. But I think it's still going to be fun. And like, I'm so jazzed up about securities and like, you know, that sort of stuff, that even talking to lawyers is going to be fun for me. So, you know, and then plus it's London. It's a great
I was
city.
just going to say, honestly, like that's been like top 3 cities that I've wanted to travel to for a really long time. So I'm super envious. I was actually just telling you before I went live. Well, I'm going to have to post it on Twitter and everywhere else too. I'll be in Florida. I'm leaving Thursday for Florida for 10 days. So I'm going to try to do another crypto convos while I'm down there. And maybe some other content too, but I won't be like at home in my green screen space. So I'm going to Florida. You're going to London. I'm very envious of your trip. You said you're leaving in a week?
Just about, yeah. As long as there's no holdups with like the TSA or anything like that.
Oh, I was just talking to my brother about that
Yeah.
today. I'm like, man, I really hope I can get through security okay. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
like 6 or 7 hours early, honestly, and just sit there because I'm a little worried about that. But
Yeah.
so besides that, are you going to any other conferences this year?
Yeah, so I'm going to Neo DevCon in February. I'm thinking about going to there's one in mid-March
Okay.
called Mallorca Blockchain Days, which is Mallorca is a an island right by like Ibiza, and
Oh,
Tone
nice.
Base is going to be there. So April probably going to another security tokens event in Dubai. So that
That's pretty cool. Dubai
that's
is supposed to be absolutely stunning city, from what I've been told.
yeah, no, I'm real excited. I've never been to the Middle East in general, so it's
Yeah,
should be
me
kind of fun.
either. Yeah, you should take a lot of pictures and put it on Instagram and stuff. I'm sure people would
Yeah.
love to see the travels of Mav while you're out there. So
Yeah,
what do you think your favorite thing is about making content and kind of like your least favorite thing?
sure. I love engaging with people and just like for me, it's like it's a position I never imagined myself in to like like record my voice at like 4 a.m. in the morning when I'm making these videos, and then it's out by like 7 a.m. and then like there's thousands of people watching, and I'm like, oh, like this is crazy. But at the same time, like it's super fun to me for me
Yeah.
to see like people getting value out of the stuff I produce. Like I guess like at heart, like my grandmother is an artist, and I think I inherited some of that. For me, it's like it's just so thrilling to like have put something out there and for people to enjoy it, to find value in it, and to ultimately like improve their lives in some way, just based on the craft of what I do. And like that's something that like I will always try to like sort of view in my work. It's just like trying at the end of the day like helping people to find value in it and like enjoy it and like just yeah, that is so fun for me. The part that I don't like the most is actually writing. I feel like I need to like I always feel like I could do better, or I need to spend more time, or like I just like it's a process, and you just get better at it every day, and I hope
Yep.
that like eventually like um yeah, there's just so much about like my writing that is just too verbose and like just needs to be like tightened and like whittled down, and like I just so many times like I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a 4 minute video, and then it turns into like a 12 minute video. I'm like, dang it, like I need to do better about that.
Yeah.
So like that to me is like I don't like that process of like having to like try to like take stuff out, but at the same time,
Yeah.
like I have to do that to make it more flow better and that sort of thing. So like, yeah, this is very much sausage making for people if you didn't really think about how much like time goes into these videos. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's something that like I will take a lot of time to just like try to make sure that I get it right, or refine the process. But yeah, at the same time, I'm flying by the seat of my pants, and I'm usually doing like one takes for my audio and just kind of scrubbing it up in
Yep.
post process. And yeah, it's something that I try to just get like 1% better every day. Like just it's a continual process.
I think that's
So
a good realistic goal, though. I mean, I'd have to say probably one of my favorite parts about making content is the creative process, like you said,
mhm,
putting out something that I enjoyed making, that I like, and then having other people be like, "Hey, that's cool too." Like it's very
yeah,
flattering, and it's also, a nod at how amazing the 21st century is, right? So we put out all this content, and we have
yeah,
people all over the world talking to us, and we can do this live stream. I'm where I am
mhm,
and you are at wherever you are, and we can do this, and people are watching and talking to us, and it's just a cool process. As far
yeah.
as disliking something, I think I'd probably have to agree with you. I think one of the hardest things for me is like some days when I have planned to do a video and I'm tired and I don't want to, getting myself to
Mhm.
actually do it. And also the writing process, like the research, writing, editing, and dealing with the whole script side of it is not really fun. I find it,
Sure.
like you said, sort of limiting almost. It's less creative for me. I'd rather like fly by the seat of my pants and talk, and I used to in my other videos, but then I'd always miss stuff, and people would get mad at me because I left out parts of the conversation or parts of what I should have mentioned. So I've been sticking to something like more structured and written, but I think it's not as fun for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a process, but like at the end of the day, it's such like an honor and a privilege to be able to do something like this.
Absolutely.
And like that people enjoy it. And, like again, like if I can make people's day better or have them be more informed after watching my content, like it's worth every struggle. It's worth like, it's worth all those like sleepless nights and like, worrying about like, what should I make a video about? Like that is the other thing. Is like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Yeah. So yeah, it's a process, but like it's so much fun at the end of the day. Like it's such an honor to. So yeah, thank you to anyone watching that.
Yes, agreed. Thank you from both of us.
Yeah.
So I have one final question for you. It's actually a community submission. His name is MetaCrypto, and he left it on my YouTube like community section. Sure. He said, "Why are you so bullish on STOs?" Arjun Balaji. I actually had to Google him. I guess he's like very much into the financial markets. He wrote a bunch of posts on Medium, 2019 predictions for STOs and whatnot. I guess he's very skeptical, and he's a crypto analyst. So, I mean, we kind of went over STOs pretty at length, but if you have anything else to add that you didn't add, feel free to.
Yeah. So I think this to me is like one of the funniest parts about the criticisms of SEOs or like the dismissals or things like that. Like people just like, no, it's not going to do anything, or it's going to be very limited or anything like that, or it's got this big roadblock in the way. And it's like, I don't get it, because like these are the same people that are like, yeah, Bitcoin is going to like take over the world and like do all these like crazy things, and it's going to smash through those roadblocks, and don't you dare like judge it by what it is today, because it's all about what it is going to be tomorrow. And I'm like, that's the exact same thing that I would say about SEOs. Like, yes, absolutely, I would agree that like there are big problems in the way. There's a lot of development to do. It's very complicated. There's lots of like regulatory hurdles to overcome. There's lots of things to do in terms of like, how do you actually tokenize things, and how do you do all this stuff? And like, guys, like that is like a solvable problem. Like these are problems for today, but like I think this is why people are just so bad in general about predicting the future, is they try to solve like today's problems with I just don't know. Like it frustrates me, but it also I find kind of comical. So anyways, I'd be really interested to read that article, because like I don't want to be this sort of like blind prophet of like, I can't even see like, like no, I'm not listening, like not listening.
Yeah, putting on your tunnel vision.
Yeah, because that I think that was the biggest problem we saw with the ICO market is, people didn't listen to the better judgment, the common sense of things, and we're just like, no, it's gonna, paradigm shifts, it's gonna take over the world. Like, don't you dare criticize this
question
stuff.
it. Yeah.
Oh, BitConnect. Yeah.
Right. I know. It's funny too. It's the people that are Bitcoin maximalists that want to see adoption and want the space to grow, but then are so one-sided about seeing an evolution.
I never understood that. I
know, and what I said in my little video pretty much was, they're not mutually exclusive. Like Bitcoin can serve its purpose and remain being Bitcoin and still doing whatever it's doing, while the space can grow and evolve in different ways, and you can pick and choose what you want to be involved in. So, but I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the way it works. Everybody's got their opinions, but time will tell, really.
For sure.
Well, do you have anything else to add? Anything you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone watching. This has been super fun for me. I don't often get on camera, so I know. I was like, I'm going to get him on camera for a live stream with me. That's the goal. So his YouTube and his Twitter are in the description below. So go check that out. If you haven't subscribed, do so. He's close to breaking 100,000 subs on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. So go give him your supports. I like the dance moves. And so thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure as always to chat. And maybe we'll have to touch base in the future and redo one of these. For sure. I'd love to do it. So thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem, man. Have a good night.
All right. Take care.